We've gotten some requests on how to introduce you. I don't know if I'm ready for all this.
Why not? Be open.
He's Jim Jackson.
Open the chain.
We have a special treat for Jim Jackson coming up later this half hour. I promise you, he may not like it. He is the Hall of Famer and three-time NBA champion, Kevin Mchale.
Right.
I'm Jared.
Only
Greenberg.
three. Would you just put only? We should have had more.
Kevin Mchale, who's a better team in the NBA right now, the Bucks or the Lakers?
I like the Lakers for just a couple simple reasons. One, they have a plan B, because if everything's not working, you can put Davis on the box and play through him. You can put LeBron on the box and play through them. Milwaukee's plan A is Giannis, plan B is Giannis, and plan C is Giannis. I'm not sure that Middleton, as the second best player on that team, is good enough to take them over the top. And as much as I love Giannis, it's just, if you look at these two guys playing together right now, that's LeBron and Davis, they've got a great chemistry. And my biggest fear has been kind of eased a little bit with the Lakers. They're outside shooting. Green's making shots, Caldwell Pope, Kuzma's coming back. They're making enough shots. So I just like the fact they have a plan B. I've never liked, in playoff series, a one-dimensional team that can only play one way. I just think you have to play multiple ways in playoffs.
Is that what we kind of saw last year in the playoffs from the Bucks?
It is, but you're talking about a 7-game series. A one-off game, a team can win. But in the 7-game series, to me, the key, too, is that you have the bigs inside that protect the paint for the Lakers, okay? And who goes to the paint more than anybody? That's Giannis, 18 points a game in the paint. So that's an area that you can kind of negate or make him less efficient in by having Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis in there, also JaVale McGee, and LeBron coming on the backside. That's something that you can take away. And the beauty of having a Anthony Davis with the LeBron James is they play off each other so well, you know what you're going to get from them. LeBron has the pedigree of championship experience. Rondo has the pedigree of championship experience. On the bench, Jay Kidd took the New Jersey team but won it with Dallas. To me, those little intangibles, when you get into a 7-game series where you have to make critical adjustments, today on paper, I still go with the Lakers from that aspect.
So let me ask you this, Kevin Mchale. Earlier we were talking about the start of the unofficial trade season this upcoming Sunday. John Horst has been known to be very aggressive in his short tenure as general manager of the Bucks. Do you think he needs to go out and get something from now until the middle of February when the trade deadline hits?
Yeah, but their assets.
They got a lot of guys they can deal.
Yeah, for who?
That's what
a
I'm
lot of guys.
asking.
They don't need a bunch. But to me, they need another guy, another option type guy. Like when I look at teams, I say, how many prongs do they have in their offense? Their offense is just really Giannis creating for everybody. And do you have another prong? Can you play differently? You were talking about the Lakers, JJ. I like the fact that you can put Anthony Davis at the 5, okay? He can guard Brook Lopez fine on the perimeter, but you can switch him onto Giannis, and he can move. And with LeBron as your point guard, you can play all 6'8" and above guys. With Kuzma and all these guys, so you can play so much bigger. I just think the Bucks need another prong in their offense. They need some guy that you can throw the ball to at the elbow, throw the ball to in the post. So somewhere that you can get really consistent offense through them. If you run into a team like Toronto did last year with Nick Nurse, they switched everything. And they kept Brook Lopez on the perimeter, didn't put him in the post. So I think you got to develop prongs to your offense. One prong offense, I'm not a fan.
So you're saying you need another player also, too, to take the pressure off Giannis, because as a scorer, the best thing you can have is someone else that's a threat on the court. Because now that opens it up for you to kind of do your own thing. And right now, once the playoffs start, I always say this, coaches during the regular season, they manage minutes, egos, and injuries, okay, during the regular season. Once you get into the playoff and championship time, that's when you really hone in on the coaching. That's when you zero in on the game plan. And with Milwaukee, what Kevin is saying, more one-dimensional, it's easy to take away those plays that they're accustomed to running, to take that away from them and force them into other situations where through a 7-game series, player A, B, and C are going to beat me. Giannis is not.
So based on what I'm hearing from both of you guys, it feels like what we're saying is that the Bucks are looking like a really good regular season team. But are they not built for success in a deep playoff run?
For me, I think in the Eastern Conference they are.
Yeah.
Okay, in the Eastern Conference they are. Once you get out west, because you have the teams that you're talking about, whether that's the Clippers, whether that's the Rockets, whether that's the Lakers, they have multiple scores.
Yep.
Okay? And with the Clippers and Lakers in particular, they have lockdown defenders that can take away what you do well. And when you don't have an answer to that, I don't care how well you execute your offense, you still got to have shot makers.
No question. You look at the Bucks. Imagine Giannis on the weak side, having some guy creating, and all of a sudden they have to get into some rotation, and you're throwing the ball to Giannis in a scramble at the perimeter, and he's coming downhill, not being the primary option, being a secondary option. So you can play off other people. I just don't see Giannis having a lot of opportunity to get off the ball and let other people carry the load a little bit. And you made a good point. If you're talking about the Clippers, coming out of the West, who knows they can come out of the West, but if they do, they got Paul, they got Kawhi, they got Harrell, who can really move his feet.
Yep.
He can switch everything. So Montrez can guard him. They got a ton of long guys. Yep. And so your number one option, even if he gets you're not going to stop him, but if you just contain him and nullify it a little bit, that is the difference between winning and losing in a 7-game series. I get back to, I like teams that have multiple prongs to their offense and can play different ways.
Yep.
Well, the Bucks have been one of the most dominant teams in basketball. You'll get to see them coming up 8 o'clock Eastern, just after the top of the hour. We'll have Milwaukee take on Orlando. Welcome me back into studio here, and this is a really cool week that we're gearing up for here in the NBA because of all the movement we had over the summer. Yep. Nearly 40% or more than 40% of the league signing new contracts. Those players aren't eligible to be traded until this upcoming Sunday. It's the start or the unofficial start of trade season, and it could be a busy one. Let's focus here on Kevin Love to start. Jim Jackson, where do you think Kevin Love may wind up if indeed he's not going to be a member of the Cavaliers?
Well, I think circulating, you heard San Antonio, you heard Portland, of course. Houston has always been in the mix. I think that's a team. But it's all about, I think for me, a contender. But what do you have to give up? We talked about Portland a little bit. Could you do something with Whiteside and maybe Zach Collins to try to win now? Okay. I think in Houston, I think in Mike D'Antoni's system, that would fit perfect for what they want to do in regards to complement what Capella does on the outside, but also help, I think, free things up a little bit more for James Harden off the double teams and also Russell Westbrook.
They just don't have the assets.
But they don't have the assets. But what may be interesting, you're talking about competing and trying to win again, Toronto. Ooh, maybe they give up one of their young assets or something like that to get a Kevin Love. But the question you have to ask yourself is if Kevin Love was a free agent right now, would you pay him 4 years, $90 million? Because that's what you have to really absorb and think about it if you're a GM. And if that's the case, that means you're willing to give up some assets to try to win now, knowing how good he's playing and what a compliment he could be.
But would it concern you guys, I want to get your take, Mac, about where you think he can go, but would it concern you about his history of injuries?
Well, yes, it would. I mean, it really would. But does that outweigh my willingness to win a championship now and figure out how to monitor his minutes with the squad that we may have that can offset the load on his body to win a championship? And that's something the GM has to, determine.
No, I agree. And then you got to say to yourself, do I want to be able to play a completely different style of basketball than we're playing now? Boston's a team that he might fit in.
Right.
Because here's the thing. With Kevin, he can really rebound the ball. Everybody knows he can go get it off the board. You can play the 5 out with Kevin. He can be the center, because there's not that many centers in here that, the Embiids and stuff he'd struggle with. But you can, for times in the game, you can play small with Love, who's going to rebound the ball, have 5 out, he makes the 3, he can really pass the ball. That's one thing that I haven't seen Cleveland use him as much in, at the elbow,
right,
at the top of the key. When he was in Minnesota, they ran offense through him. He can really, really pass, and I coached him for a while, and the kid's got great vision. So you can play completely different. Now, what's the price tag for you being able to play the 5-out offense that everybody plays right now? He's as good a three-point shooter, better three-point shooter than Brook Lopez, and that's what they do. He's going to rebound the ball really well. It's not as big as Brook, but you can play that same style of basketball. So I look at all these teams that say, boy, if we have Love, we can start him at the 4, but we can play small and have a 5-out lineup. And that 5-out lineup's been murder on a lot of teams. So any team, Houston, you're right, because D'Antoni would fit in there very nicely. He and Capella would be a nice compliment. Capella's big enough to guard the guys. So the biggest thing is just you got to get the money right to try to trade him, and it's going to be tough.
Or you give up. What is your threshold for giving up a young asset?
Young talent,
for the future. And again, if you're trying to win it now, you kind of forego that a little bit and say we need to make sure our window of opportunity is now.
Well, let me ask you this: if money wasn't a factor, which we know it is, but if it wasn't a factor, would you give up equal assets to get LaMarcus Aldridge or Kevin Love?
Oh, in today's game, Kevin Love.
Yeah, I was going to say.
In today's game,
yeah.
because of the pick and pop aspect of the game, he provides so much value for you out on the team. And even if he's shooting 37% from the three-point line, okay, so you have to guard him. Sure. So the pick and roll game is totally different with a Kevin Love than it is with a LaMarcus Aldridge.
Better passer than LaMarcus.
Oh, yeah.
He can make passes from the perimeter, guys cutting. He can facilitate. He can do a lot of stuff. So, like you say, in today's game, it's Kevin Love. For all the different ways that he can beat you from the perimeter and still defensive rebound the ball, really, really well for any team he's on. So it'll be interesting. And then you got Chris Paul, talking about Chris Paul. I mean, any contender, you try to get him another big contract. I mean, are the Spurs just going to take DeRozan? Are they just going to blow the whole thing up? I don't know. There's a lot of questions in our league right now that'll be answered next month or so.
There is one team, Shams mentioned them, that I'd be stunned if they don't make a deal before the trade deadline in February. That's the Denver Nuggets. They've got so many assets.